Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner Classics. That's non-classic. This is episode number 1342 and Doubleshot number 1236. I have two Marvel trades. One is a story that came out just a few years ago. The other one came back in the 90s. Well, they're both 90s themed type stories because of characters. Well, first we have Cable Volume 2, The Newer Mutants. Interesting title for a book. Yep. Now, this book collects issues 150 to 154. Yes, basically restored to the original Triple Edition numbering thanks to Marvel Legacy stuff that released back in 2017. Though, this book basically decided to do something really dumb. I'm not really sure exactly why they did this. And it's, to my knowledge, the only book I have seen in the last I'd say 17 years now, because I've been reading comic books 17 years now, where it's the only comic book where after they finish completing an actual story arc, we have to change the creative team in the book. Not just the artist, the writer too. Because first we had James Robertson for the previous issues. Here we got Ed Bronson. Okay, yes, Ed Bronson. Now, the story for this one is this, that somebody is killing off these immortal beings. And Selene is basically one of the next persons to be on the list. Now, he decided to recruit a team to hunt down the killer. Who does he recruit? Well, first he has Longshot. Yes, Longshot. We also have Dupe, Shatterstar, Armor, well, past version before she officially the X-Men. Laura, when she was X-23. I accept her as X-23 here over Kurt and the most recent stuff. And yeah, that was it. Now, as for why he recruited people, in the case of Shatterstar, knew him from X-Force. So it makes perfect sense there. Armor and X-23, my guess is because there were newer characters introduced in the early 2000s. So I guess Ed Bronson's like, okay, I'll include two female members of this team. Now, you're probably thinking, wait, is that Blink from the Age of Apocalypse universe? Well, yes, but here's the thing. Now, they do have Blink show up in here. She's revealed to be somebody working with Selene. But here's something interesting, though. That, of course, this is before Selene did. Apparently, this version of Selene is before the events of Neurosha. That's interesting. Okay. So, this Blink is not the one from Age of Apocalypse. Yeah, the cover is a big fat lie. Yeah, that's how the Blink shows up in here. It's the 616 version of Blink, the one who didn't really appear very much over the years. At one point, this character started to be dead. Yeah. Now, aside from having Ed Bronson on the writing, we have John Malvin on the artwork, with the cover art done by John, of course, the same cover art interior artist, and Fredro B., who is the color artist in here. Also, gotta love this. Issue 150. The variant cover is a homage to his first appearance from New Mutants number 887. Yes, and as you can see, it's done by Rob Liefeld, which makes perfect sense, the fact he would do this. And this is probably the first time I can think of he's actually drawn anything related to Cable since Cable and Deadpool. So, basically recruits these people from, over the course of time stream, to deal with this person who actually is responsible for this. And there's revealed to be a man named Gideon. Gideon, you're probably thinking, wait, is he a character created by Rob Liefeld? Yes, he is. As a matter of fact, a lot of the characters associated with this book are basically, with the exception of Dupe, Armor, and X-23, with the exception of those three characters, a lot of the characters were either shown up first in the 80s, like in the case of Selene, or the 1990s. Which, that's fine. Gideon himself basically is a character who is associated with Cable, and just by sheer coincidence, get this. This character made his debut back in New Mutants 98. You're probably thinking, wait, New Mutants 98, is that also the same comic that Deadpool first showed up in? Yes. Same comic book. Though the character didn't really appear very much over the years, he's not as popular as, let's say, frickin' Deadpool. Yeah. But this is a really fun story, and I do recommend it. It's really good. I gotta say, it's actually better than the opening story arc, per se. But the opening story arc was simply just, well, battling some time travel named Conquest. This is a full-on, really good story, even involves time travel, but well, it feels like something like a 90s story, like a story that was basically created for the 90s, but written with the current modern perspective, like having Capo's many bunkers, one of whom have one of safe houses. It almost feels like this arc is, simply put, Ed Bronson's love letter to 1990s. Well, the 1980s Cable, that is. Now, speaking of 1990s, let's go to quite possibly one of the best events to come out of the 1990s. Now, I had previously reviewed the Infinity Gauntlet. Here is the Infinity War, the sequel, coming 1 year later. Now, yes, Linkar himself did review this for Events Comic. I believe it was just last year, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was last year or two, I think he did review this. Now, this trade collects the initial 6-issue miniseries written by Jim Starlin, along with a couple tie-ins. Yes, there were a couple tie-ins that they threw in here too, which I'm like, really? They threw 2 tie-ins? Interesting. I'm not really sure I did this for, because in the Fan Comic I have, it didn't include any of the tie-ins. None of them. This one does. We have Marvel Comics Presents issues 108 111, and Warlock and the Infinity Watch issues 7 through 10. Now, there is some basically mentions basically happened with the Warlock Volume 2, which was published prior to this. It was a 6-issue miniseries. Now, you're probably thinking, what the heck is Infinity Watch? Infinity Watch was a series started by Jim Starlin, and he pretty much wrote every issue of this whole series. It didn't last as long as other titles in the 90s. Now, if you ever get a chance to read any issue of the series, it's a really good series. And the membership includes people like, basically people who Jim Starlin basically wrote over the years. Thanos is part of the book, occasionally make appearances. We also have Pip the Troll, Drax Destroyer. Kind of in the way Infinity Watch was basically a 90s version of what we consider to be the modern version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yep. Let's see if I can find him here. Yes. So, who is the main villain of the storyline? Is it Thanos? Nope. He has nothing to do with He's more like an anti-hero part of the story. He's basically trying to invent this guy from basically covering his powers. We have Magnus. Now, you're probably thinking, who the heck is Magnus? He is an evil doppelganger from the future of Adam Warlock. Now, some people tend to mistake Adam Warlock to be a Jim Starlin creation because of his common association with the character. No, he did not create the character. Yes, he did help to develop a lot of stuff associated with the character himself, but the character was exclusively created by, get this, Stan Lee and Jack the King Kirby. When he first appeared, I think it was issue 6 of Fantastic Four back in the 60s, when he was referred to as simply as him. That was basically his first appearance. Later on, he was referred to as Adam Warlock. And this concept of Warlock was introduced in the Strange Tales series when Warlock was the last feature of the book before the book was canceled, when it was part of a revived run. And yes, he did look like this. This goofy look. By the way, unlike the original book, which was originally done by George Perez a lot of the time, this book had 3 different artists. You have Rob Lem, Tom Rooney, and actually 5 artists. Tom Rooney, Angel Medina, Shawn Michaels, and Larry Alexander. Yep. The cover art here, they don't really say who does the cover art. It's probably Rob Lem. Yeah. Now, I'm going to show you the first page where I'm thinking, wait, this page looks very familiar. Yes, it does look familiar, because if anybody saw the very first trailer released for Avengers Endgame, this is the first thing people saw was this image of Thanos' outfit dressed up as a scarecrow. Yeah, it's a similar sequence that they used in the movie, and it's kudos to the fact it is. Now, the Infinity Watch. Let's see if I can find them here. We also had the first appearance of... Come on, seriously, don't do that, please. Thank you. We had the first appearance of the Spider Doppelganger. Yes, this character. Who actually died in the crossover that came no longer after this, Maximum Carnage. This is all about doppelgangers. Oh, and here is Magnus in his full form. Yes, Magnus. Now, despite the fact that they kind of in the way got rid of this character, this is explained in some issue of Fantastic Four that basically revived the character. Okay. Now, the Infinity Watch was comprised of Adam Warlock, Moondragon, Pip the Troll, Gamora, and Drax Destroyer. Now, we also have a good subplot here of Kang the Conqueror teaming with Doctor Doom. Now, when you look at Gamora, like, wait, are you sure this is Gamora? She's right there. Yeah, that's Gamora. And yes, this big bulky guy is Drax Destroyer. Now, here's the thing. If you read the Annihilation No miniseries, you're probably familiar with this look of him because this look last appeared in that particular book for basically going back to the book look in the Danny Dakota run before going back to his classic look. It's a much more better look at Gamora. Yeah, this is a look associated with the character for a long time, up until she became a founding member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, the Infinity Watch HQ was on Monster Island, an island that's basically ruled by the Mole Man. Yes, a Fantastic Four villain. Yep. Yeah. Now, we do have appearances in here by the Avengers, the X-Men, the Avengers West Coast. You're probably thinking, West Coast. The Avengers had a West Coast branch, if you're new comic readers. Yeah, they had a West Coast branch. As a matter of fact, it was actually not long after this, the series got canceled due to low sales. And it was replaced with Forceworks, done by Dan Abnett and Andy Lenning. Though it had really terrible artwork. This book was released, I think, like 1992, I think it was. I think it was like 92. Yeah, it was 1992. Infinity Gauntlet was released in 1991. Yep, we also have Fantastic Four. The New Warriors pop up in here. Which, it's good the fact New Warriors got a chance to see some spotlight in a big event like this. Though they don't do very much. As a matter of fact, a lot of the superheroes don't really do very much at all in this event. It's mostly the Infinity Watch do all the legwork in here. Though a lot of the book gets focused on Adam Warlock, who did not get much to do in the original event. Here he does. Also, if you're curious, though, is Nebula here? No, she isn't. And I tend to think it's quite weird, though. Because you think of Infinity War, the film, you're probably thinking the movie is an adaptation of this. No, it's an adaptation of Infinity Gauntlet plus Thanos Quest. The movie mainly took just the name of this title, plus the opening page just for the Endgame movie. Yep. So, pretty much we have basically going back and forth. We see Magnus basically watch everything. We also have the evil doppelgangers, like a bunch of superheroes. If you want to think of a couple characters, one character is easily taken out of the story is Hawkeye. Yeah, he basically appears briefly for one page before he gets taken out by his evil doppelganger, which the doppelganger is later killed by, I think it was like Wolverine, I think it was. Wolverine figures out that Reed Richards was taken out by doppelganger along with Iron Man. And then, of course, we also have several times in this book, we have the superheroes fighting their doppelgangers. Now, here's the strange thing. All of them except for one were killed off by the end of the story. The only one that managed to survive, surprisingly, is the Spider Doppelganger. Yes, Spider-Man's doppelganger who first been in this very story, and yet he was able to live for another couple of years before he got killed off, which, that's something. And here's the thing. Carnage, despite back not being into this event, this was mentioned in Max and Carnage, he actually read about this in the paper. Which, okay, that makes sense about how you would know about it. Yes. The Infinity Watch mostly just explains some in-between stuff that happened between issues. Same thing with Mark Hamill Presents, was mostly focused on Thanos during when he was doing his off-screen stuff for the main book itself. But this book is just pure fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's very wordy per se, but excuse me. The book itself is really good, and this is also the first time that I can think of where Adam Warlock took central spotlight in a major story like this. And this is probably just a chance for Jim Starlin to show off how awesome Adam Warlock is. Book is good. Give this book roughly a I'm going to give it a 9.5. Unlike the Infinity Gauntlet, this book feels like, I do agree with Linkara's opinion, it feels like a bit of a step down from the Infinity Gauntlet story. Because that was well told, good pacing with it. This book, the villain is very cheesy, and he's not exactly an iconic villain like Thanos is. Though I do appreciate that Jim Starlin took a character he specifically created and take him a different direction that's been loosely associated with the character since then, where he sometimes assumed a villain role or an anti-hero role. It's just basically how Ryerson to write him, per se. And as of currently, Thanos is dead. He got killed off in Infinity Wars back in 2018. They did briefly resurrect him, but it was a full resurrection. So technically, he's still dead. He's been dead about 3 years, give or take. And when you first read his book, like, Thanos is basically back to what he was doing. Just basically being a farmer, being a wool-gathering conqueror. That's simply just when it comes to him. Yep. But this event, it's just pure fun. It's a great book. It has some good mentions of basically stuff related to Warlock, which is great. And yes, this does happen. This on the back of the cover where you have Magnus with the Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah, he does get it. And the other thing where Doubleshot was basically deemed via judgment that the Infinity Gauntlet cannot use power when it's all in one. You can't use it. But it was briefly lifted for this one event. And then the restriction was restored to it. Though other writers since ignored this particular thing that happened in this book, because here's the thing. We've actually seen it that we see Captain America as recently as 2013 doing this damn thing. We used the Infinity Gauntlet to destroy another world. Yep. Yeah. Of course, also the Infinity Stones were actually destroyed during that particular first arc for Jonathan Hickman's run for New Avengers. But this book, it's good. It's just not as good as Infinity Gauntlet. And of course, next event that came right after this one was Infinity Crusade, then Infinity Abyss, which was a small scale thing. And there was a couple of Infinity things released. Of course, it was Infinity in 2013. And of course, also and the Infinity War Countdown and Infinity Wars in 2018. So yeah, I mean, I already technically reviewed Infinity and Infinity Wars and Infinity Countdown. So, got Crusade and Abyss to go. Crusade was the last one for quite a while. And Marvel must have loved this event. So that's one of the reasons I kept doing sequels to it. I probably will eventually get my hands on Infinity Crusade. It depends. But at Infinity War, it's a good event. It's definitely good, but not good as Infinity Gauntlet. Okay, so that's it for Circle Review. Stay tuned for my reviews for One Piece, My Hero Academia, Bar to another comment corner. Okay, to the next video. Bye.